Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the VC. Welcome to Vinyl Finds number 5 with James Griffiths, the Vinyl Professor. It's the last day of July and it's a lovely sunny day outside. It's been quite busy the last few weeks, the last couple of weeks. The schools have broken up, the kids are off school, so it's all family frenzy at the moment. I'm still managing to find some time to buy records, to listen to new stuff, old stuff. So I thought I'd try and record a quick Vinyl Finds video while I've got the house to myself. So at the moment we're listening to an album which actually is a grail for me. It's an album that I've had on CD for quite a long time, and I've been looking for it on eBay and so on. Never really found it at a good price, and then all of a sudden I did. Grover Washington Jr. and Mr. Magic. Obviously, Grover Washington Jr., as you'll know, obviously is a really cool, great kind of sax player from the 70s and 80s. He did a string of really good albums. This one is on Motown and dates back to some point in the 1970s. Don't have a date for this. The reason I got into this originally actually was because of the drummer. The drummer's called Harvey Mason, and he was a kind of funk, soul, R&B drummer from the 1970s. Very subtle and sophisticated player. He played on all sorts of great kind of R&B funk hits back in the day. This is just a great album, very laid back, very funky. But about a week before I bought this, I just happened to come across this one in a charity shop. This is Grover Washington Jr.'s Wine Light album. I wasn't too sure about it when I first saw it because the cover looks a little bit, I don't know, perhaps just a bit cheesy. But it's actually a really, really nice album. It's more of an 80s kind of thing. A bit more, there's some slap bass on it, a bit more dated sounding. You know how 80s albums never date quite as well as 1970s albums, but it is a really good record. Nice label there. And what's interesting about it is it turns out that this is the album that the song The Two of Us by Bill Withers comes from. I was just playing the album and all of a sudden that song just popped up with Bill Withers singing it, and I thought, oh wow, is this the album that song comes from then? And apparently it is, so there's an interesting bit of fact for you. So yeah, I found this one in a charity store, and then about a week later I came across this one, so I was just really, really pleased to find those two. Grover Washington Jr., Mr. Magic and Wine Light. I've been spinning some other jazz stuff as well. This is an album that I bought reasonably recently. Things Are Getting Better by Cannonball Adderley with Milt Jackson. Milt Jackson is a vibe player, vibraphone, and this album contains some really, really good personnel. It's got Wynton Kelly on keyboard, on piano. Wynton Kelly was in one of the Miles Davis quintets. Percy Heath on bass, and the legendary, fantastically brilliant drummer Art Blakey. Really, 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 really good album. Bluesy, kind of straight ahead, blowing kind of stuff, It's on the Riverside label, a label which doesn't get as much kudos really as a Blue Note. I mean, the Blue Note releases, people really value those records. They, collect them and talk about them. And the Riverside label often gets forgotten about, but I mean, it was a really, really, really big label in its day. All kinds of really good funky, bluesy, jazz kind of stuff. Just wait 1 second. Sorry, I just got interrupted there. Somebody knocked at the door. Yeah, so the Riverside label, like I say, not quite as legendary as the Blue Note label, but all sorts of great albums. I've got a few good compilation albums on Riverside, which I'll show at some point. So yeah, that was a really nice purchase. Cannonball Adderley and Milt Jackson with Things Are Getting Better. Some more jazz. picked this one up at my local market stand because it was cheap, dead cheap, and you can't go wrong with a bit of Oscar Peterson. This is Another Day from 1975. Now, it doesn't say who's on here, whether it's his usual trio. I'm sure it probably is his usual trio, but there's a really, really good track listing. There's a great version of Greensleeves on here, the old traditional folk tune. Yeah, just what you'd expect really from Oscar Peterson. Just, you know, full on, very, very pyrotechnic piano playing. Just great kind of you know, mainstream jazz. This next record is one I bought not long. Let me think. I bought it and then I saw John Bellamy showing it on the VC, you know, very shortly afterwards. And I don't remember how I came across this or where I got the idea from to buy it. It may have been just an impulse purchase on eBay. This is Illuminations by Coltrane and Carlos Santana. A kind of a spiritual jazz album on CBS. Yeah, really, really good. Side 1 is kind of very spacey, quite kind of cool and calm and collected. Side 2 has got lots of very hard, almost like free jazz stuff on it. But obviously you've got Alice Coltrane on harp and Carlos Santana doing his inimitable thing on guitar. It's a great album to chill out to in the evening. Side 1 is anyway, like I say. Side 2 is a bit more manic. But yeah, that's a really good buy. Giving it quite a few spins. Illuminations by Santana and Alice Coltrane. Okay, so the next album is from a band completely different to what I've been showing already so far. Years ago I used to live in Leeds. There was a band around in the city who had kind of, you know, made it big as an indie band, and everybody was aware of them, and they were The Wedding Present. This is their album Bizarro, and it's from 1989. The Wedding Present were a big favourite of John Peel, the British DJ John Peel. He really championed them, and you know, they did many, many sessions for him on his show. There we go, Bizarro. I mean, The Wedding Present, they were kind of very angst-ridden, sort of British indie, you know, music for a rainy day, really. Quite kind of angry, embittered lyrics. Very fast tempos on this record, actually. Fast kind of scrubby guitars, you know, really kind of fast, crunchy guitars. I do have a very slight connection to The Wedding Present because their guitarist, now what was his name? I can't remember his name. I know David Gedge was the singer, but the guitarist from The Wedding Present, he left the band to form another band called the Ukrainians, who played, you know, Ukrainian type music, kind of amplified, sped up Ukrainian folk music, but done with electric guitars and so on. And I shared a house with a guy who became the bass player for the Ukrainians and did a tour with them. He did a tour of Poland, and once or twice the guitarists from the Ukrainians who had been in The Wedding Present, a couple of times he came around our house and actually crashed at our house and kind of, you know, slept on the living room floor. I never actually met him, but I was aware that he was there, so it was quite interesting for me to pick this one up. And it took me back to that period of my life, you know, when I was living in a bit of a rackety rock and roll kind of lifestyle. But a good album, The Wedding Present, Bizarro. Okay. I've been enjoying the Moody Blues, Days of Future Past, recorded back in the 1960s. It's on the D-Ram label. This is the album that contains Nights in White Satin. I'm sure you'll have all heard it. Really, really good album. Great fidelity on this. It's not an original. I think if you get an early pressing, the writing there tends to be in black, I think anyway. But it's quite an early pressing because it's on a white label, and and yeah, it's just one of the kind of greats of you know, British progressive, you know, early progressive psychedelic music. The Moody Blues were a really influential band, you know, I think, and quite often underrated. And this has got some great songs on it and some really, really lovely orchestrations as well. So the Moody Blues, Days of Future Past. This next album, I was watching Bo's channel, Earhead 6, and it was an older video that he'd made where he was showing some of his garage rock albums, and he had them all piled up on the bed and he was just basically filming them, and it brought back some great memories for me. I used to have, well, I still do have the album Nuggets and Pebbles on CD, and I used to listen to them in the car all the time, you know, driving around like a maniac, listening to all this kind of, you know, 60s garage rock, you know, psychedelia. And one of my favourite bands on those CDs was the Chocolate Watch Band, who were a kind of Yardbirdsy kind of band. They were from the, let me get this right now, San Jose, and they were a kind of, you know, 60s punk band, really. Nice gatefold here. This is an 80s reissue. You have to be careful with the Chocolate Watch Band because there were all sorts of personnel changes, and the name ended up being used by a variety of different bands who weren't really the Chocolate Watch Band. It was a bit like in the 60s when some people somehow got hold of the Fleetwood Mac name and managed to release some music under the name Fleetwood Mac, even though it had nothing to do with Fleetwood Mac. So with the Chocolate Watch Band, you just have to watch out that it actually is the Chocolate Watch Band rather than the imposters. So this actually is by the, you know, the proper band, and it's got great tracks on, like Are You Gonna Be There at the Lovin', which I think is on one of the Nuggets compilations. I Ain't No Miracle Worker. Yeah, it's just great kind of, you know, fuzzed up suburban American punk, you know, back from the 1960s. And this is possibly my favourite ever band name, the Chocolate Watch Band. What a great name that is. I remember reading an interview years ago with Bobby Gillespie from Primal Scream and Jason Pierce from Spiritualized, and I think that that's where I encountered the name, the Chocolate Watch Band, for the first time. And I seem to remember thinking, what a great name that is. I mean, I'd love to hear them. And then when I got hold of the Nuggets compilations, that's when I heard them. But yeah, just think Stones, Yardbirds, but even more kind of like, you know, turned up to 11, cranked out. Just great kind of American garage punk. And then all the way from American garage punk through to a completely different thing, really, although you could say that there are sort of, you know, certain parallels. Just before punk broke big in England back in 1976, there was a movement called pub rock. Pub rock kind of was stuff that was a bit more, well, a lot more stripped back than a lot of the prog music that had started to take precedence. But just coming out of pub rock, just before you got into punk, one or two harder edge bands came along that really straddled the pub rock scene and the punk scene, and arguably the most significant of those bands was Dr. Feelgood. This is their album Malpractice, which I believe is from 1975, and here we have the great Wilko Johnson. I think he was the bass player, wasn't he? If you're not aware of the story of Wilko Johnson and what's happened to him in more recent years, then check out, I think on YouTube, I'm sure you'll find it. There'll be a documentary there which was on TV a while ago. Absolutely astonishing, because he was diagnosed with terminal cancer about 5 years ago now, and he carried on working, he carried on touring, he refused all treatment. He got into acting. He's in Game of Thrones, and he continued to do all this stuff, all these live gigs and so on. And the doctors were saying to him, you really should be dead. And he finally happened to get a second opinion from somebody, because some guy examined him and said, I don't understand this, you've had this terminal diagnosis, you know, you really should be dead. And they checked him over, and this surgeon said, I think we can actually operate on this. And he ended up being cured. So he kind of went from, you know, being on death's door and just kind of assuming that he was going to die, to basically just being given a complete all clear and a new, just a new, you know, life expectation. Really, really amazing story. Anyway, what a huge digression that was. Dr. Feelgood, Malpractice. This is absolutely great. I love Dr. Feelgood. I mean, I think arguably, in order to really appreciate what they did, you would have had to have seen them live or see some TV footage of them playing, you know, very, very kind of balls to the wall rock and roll. If you want to check out any tracks, the two best tracks on here, I think, are Don't Let Your Daddy Know, and also You Shouldn't Call the Doctor If You Can't Afford the Pills. Yeah, absolutely great. Dr. Feelgood, Malpractice, John B. Sparks, Lee Brullier, who's now dead, Wilco Johnson, and Big Figure. And the band are still actually around, except I don't think any of the original members are in the band anymore. Just need to put the music back on. Okay, so pressing on now. A couple of albums from the 1970s by the same band. This is the sensational Alex Harvey band. The album is Next. As I'm sure you'll know, he was a kind of Scottish rock and roller, really, for want of a better word. He had a really good band, good songwriter, really kind of, you know, vibey, mid-70s rock kind of sound. I think Ron Beaudry is quite into him. I've seen Ron showing some Alex Harvey stuff. I think he might even have all their albums. So I bought this one, Next, which is a cracker. And this next one I haven't actually listened to yet, but I enjoyed Next so much that I thought I would get this one as well. This is The Impossible Dream, which I believe is another one of his kind of, you know, highly admired albums. This one is a gatefold. That's the same label as before. Sensational Alex Harvey Band. Great sounds from the 1970s. Okay, and to finish with, we're going to finish with something nice and light. A band that I never particularly had any time for. I always had them down as being a bit cheesy for some reason. But I happened to pick this album up at a market stand. This is the Hollies. 17 great tracks, including 3 previously unreleased tracks. They being Zippity Doo Dah, Too Much Monkey Business, a Chuck Berry cover, and another track as well, Little Bitty Pretty One. This has got some quite good bluesy, hard-rocking bluesy stuff on, actually. The Hollies have got 2 things going for them. One, really, really brilliant, amazing 3-part harmonies, which I'd never really appreciated how great their harmony singing is, you know, but I mean, it really is absolutely fantastic. But they've also got a harder kind of, you know, rock and rolly sound than I ever gave them credit for. And I enjoyed this one so much that I then went and picked up this one, Stop, 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 which is an American version of a previously released Hollies album, and the name escapes me for the moment. I've not listened to this one yet, but I've gone from thinking, you know, I don't really rate the Hollies much, thinking I might actually try and get hold of any record that I can find that has their name on, because I just really, really enjoyed these 2 records. Yeah, why not? You know, that's what's great, isn't it, about records and buying records? You know, you find one thing and then you think to yourself, hey, why not? I'm just going to go and get more of that. I've seen some great videos recently from various people, new people coming onto the VC, old people, you know, coming back and making great videos. I'm going to do an entire video at some point of, you know, shout outs and recommendations, because there are so many people out there now showing great stuff. I'm sure it's always been the case. And I've had some really good correspondence with people, and I just love it when, you know, when I sort of get the comments and then I go and comment on other people's videos and we get into a dialogue. It's just a really fruitful time at the moment, I feel. Lots of correspondence with people, lots of dialogue. a bit of VCLT coming through. I do have a VCLT video to make as well. I've had some great VCLT from another British member of the VC. The rest of this month is going to be a little bit busy. We're going to go away on holiday a couple of times and there's quite a lot going on, so I may be able to make another video before I go away. I may not, but if I don't, then I may be gone for the rest of August. We'll have to see, but I will come back and do a shout out video very soon, because like I say, I've been enjoying so many different people's channels and videos of late, and I've got some good recommendations. So I hope you enjoyed that Vinyl Finds number 5 from me. A big hello to all my subscribers, old and new. Thanks very much as ever for watching and for commenting, and if you like this video then please give me a like and leave your comments, and I will see you all very soon. Take care, VC. Bye.